Good evening, friends. I am back and I will continue with some more news. Recently, in the permanent Security Council and non-permanent member of the Security Council, there was a voting which happens every 2 years for the non-permanent Security Council members, and India was one of the countries who got selected in overwhelming support from all across the globe. Around 192 countries voted and India received around 184 votes out of them and got selected for the next 2 years in the non-permanent group of countries of the United Security Council. We all know that permanent members are 5. So except China, Russia, US, UK and France, all they have expressed support for India, and they also have been supporting India for a permanent membership in the Permanent Security Council with a veto power. But we are yet to see when that kind of reform happens in the Permanent Member Council of the United Security Council. And there are other contingents also, like Japan and Germany, who are also looking forward to reform in the Security Council, and they are also hoping for a permanent membership with a veto power in the coming days. So it is a long pending reform and we don't know when it really will happen, but most of the countries agree that we need a reform in the United Security Councils, because recently in the last couple of years or even 1 or 2 decades, we have observed UN Security Council have failed to control many wars and many conflicts all across the world because of the divided group of countries within the UNSC. Like we all know, there is still some Cold War era kind of vibe in the council, and most of the time USA and Russia, they don't go well. USA, France and UK, mostly they align more in their thought, but China and Russia, they mostly oppose anything which USA or UK or France suggests, and vice versa. So this is a kind of stalemate which happens in the Security Council, and if any resolution is brought by USA or France or UK, China or Russia vetoes them, and if something is brought by Russia and China, then the USA vetoes them. So this is what we have been observing in the last couple of years. So definitely this is not a good situation and this is not very mature, but how it will help to have more members, probably it will have a better divergent views of the real world at present, and it will give representation to a huge amount of population of the humanity if India, Germany, Japan and maybe some other countries like Brazil or South Africa, maybe if they are also given a seat in the Permanent United Security Council. Recently, one of the USA general confirmed that as per the earlier agreement with Taliban peace deal, USA has reduced the number of soldiers inside Afghanistan. So in the peak of the 2-decade US-led NATO war on Afghanistan, the maximum number of US soldiers on Afghan soil was around 100,000. Now it has reduced over the time, and recently till last year it was around 12,000 US soldiers on Afghan soil. Now they have reduced it further to 8,600, and in the coming months or in the coming years it may further reduce. That is what US administration have been saying vocally, that we don't want to fight somebody else's war, and Trump administration especially have called it out couple of times that he would like to see all the US soldiers from Afghanistan and similar other area conflict zones back to the US soil before this November election. Now if that really happens, we will have to see And however, in another perspective, some of the US commanders and some of the on ground specialists or experts, they feel or say that it should not be zero presence over there. Moving all of them out of Afghanistan will be a very bad choice and bad situation. We don't know how things will work out with Taliban on charge. They have already recently attacked some civilians and in some civilian areas, causing civilian casualties. So many people are of the opinion that USA actually need to keep some presence to ensure basic human rights and basic protection of some of the areas, at least, because Afghan government and Afghan army, they are still under training and under a lot of pressure, and they are not fully in control of the whole Afghanistan territory. So majority or vast area of the Afghanistan territory is under Taliban control. And again, there are a lot of other actors who are working on and who are fighting in between in Afghanistan. So definitely I also feel that some presence of international security forces should be there. Interestingly, USA had been advocating some other countries like India to send troops on ground and keep the job of maintaining the security in Afghanistan. India has a very cordial and long historical relationship with Afghanistan. So India has been doing its bits in development, in humanitarian and in medical grounds. India had been building hospitals and roads and bridges and schools, and also helping them on the IT sector, in the software development and lot of other things. But India never actually decided to send Indian army to a different foreign land, except for the Sri Lanka episode. But right now we have to see in the future if India decides to have some presence in Afghanistan. But for the time being, it's a no, and US and some of the NATO member countries have their forces present in Afghanistan. So let's see how it goes out, and let's see if we can trust the Taliban and if we can see some real peace happening in Afghanistan. And I'm continuing with some other news. Recently, Australia faced a major cyber attack across the spectrum, like all the government websites, government servers, and also the military installations, many commercial sectors including the banking sector and educational sector, the top universities. There was a whole round of sectors which faced the brunt of the cyber attack, and it is speculated, of course, that the attack originated from China, because recently Australia and China are not having such a good cordial relationship diplomatically, and Australia is coming very close to India. Recently, India and Australia signed 7 major agreements, including strategic defense agreement, which include the reciprocal usage of Indian military bases and Australian military bases in each other's land. So as Australia, USA, Japan and India, which China fears or calls itself it as a quad or quadrilateral agreement or quadrilateral military force. China's fear is that India, Japan, Australia and USA are collaborating to form a joint military alliance against China, and which is why China is not happy about these military strategic tie-ups between these countries, and even Russia don't like it. So although interestingly India shares very good relationship with Russia and USA both. So after Australia, it is also speculated that after as the tension between the India and China is going very high, Chinese hackers can actually target Indian civilians as well as Indian government infrastructure. So for the last couple of days, most of the Indian banks, most of the Indian cyber defense companies and IT companies, they have been sending instructions and emails and advertisement for awareness amongst the people that you can be a victim of a phishing attack or a phishing attack, or don't click on any unknown hyperlink, or all those kind of suggestions. It is said Chinese hacker have the email IDs and other details of more than 2 million Indians, which is huge number, and we really don't know if it is true or not. But even if it is true, then it is very scary, because out of those 2 million people, many of them could be, and most probably, government officials and very senior corporate personalities, and maybe many celebrities, many military personals in the list. So all the people can come under this directed attack. So whether it will be a phishing or phishing kind of attack to steal more information, or cause some damage to their mobiles or laptop or desktops systems, or it could be some attack on the corporates or the banking sectors or the infrastructure sectors to paralyze those sectors. However, so far there hasn't been any significant development on this side. It is said there are cyber attacks happening and things have increased, but Indian emergency response team, or CERT, they have been managing things pretty well, as they have claimed. So we are still defending on the cyber attack front, and hopefully we haven't seen the kind of attack which everybody is expecting, but we may see them in the coming days if the tension between India and China increases further.